Hey Mini enthusiasts, how you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're all well and I hope you're having a great day. Today we're on the Racing Green and we're going to be protecting one of the most vulnerable areas prone to corrosion on a classic Mini, and that is the sills. And to do the job, I'm going to be using Dinitrol 1000 cavity wax. Dinitrol is perfect for the job. It's specifically made to wax the inside of the cavities of vehicles and provide long-lasting protection to stop the car corroding over time. So the tools we're going to be using today, like I say, we're using Dinitrol 1000 cavity wax. I have actually got 3 litres here, which is far more than I need. We're probably not even going to use half a litre to do both sills. But thankfully, Mark gave me those bottles. He had them spare, so they'll come in very, very useful. To apply it, we're using a Schutz gun. Now, originally the Schutz gun come with a cavity wax sprayer on the end. That's about 10 mil. Now, that's unfortunately too big to get up inside the sills and where we need to get it to on a classic Mini. So I've had to modify it a bit, just with a bit of hose, and this is an original from a spray can, like undersill cavity wax sprayer. This actually sprays out wax in sort of 360 degrees. So if you imagine if you poke that up inside somewhere and spray, then it's going to cover everywhere inside that box section or cavity. We do need an air compressor to do this. They do cavity waxes in pressurized spray cans if you don't have something like a compressor, but I do, so it makes it nice and easy. Now, the first thing we need to do is make life easy for ourselves. So we're going to get the Mini jacked up on axle stands, on ramps at the front, so we've got a good bit of clearance underneath. Right, there we go. So we're on the ramps at the front. I have an axle stand on the other side. I only have one axle stand, unfortunately. So before people slate me, there is an axle stand supporting the other side. It is worth mentioning it up. So I've sheeted up underneath. This is a very, very messy job. And the whole idea with this cavity wax is it will run into the seam. So the idea is you spray more than you probably need in there. It will get into all the nooks and crannies inside and it will seep into all the seams. That means you're going to have a lot of sort of overspill dripping out of various different places. So you need to make sure everything's clean and tidy. Another tip for you, especially in the winter like it is at the moment, it's very cold in here. 6.5 degrees in the garage at the moment. To help apply this Dinitrol, although it's not like wax oil will go hard in this cold weather. This does still stay liquid even though it's cold, but it's worth just heating it up to make it a little bit easier to apply. The next step, just have a think about where you're going to be applying the wax. Now, the great bit with Minis is they have these flutes on the bottom, unless you've got oversills. So these are standard sills, so it means they are open to the air. So as you can see, we can get a screwdriver up inside. That gives you absolutely fantastic access for doing something like wax oiling like this, because we can insert the probe up there. We can get into all of this box section here. If you've got oversills on there, definitely worth putting some cavity wax in there because they're a nightmare. If you'd have seen my previous videos with how condensation forms on like warm surfaces when it's cold outside, that's exactly what happens inside the sills. And so you need airflow through these box sections to stop that happening. Now, if you've got oversills, it locks it all in and that's what causes them to corrode so badly. So if you've got open seals like this, we've got plenty of places to put our probes up inside and spray the cavity wax in there. There's also couple of bits where you want to try and get to, and that's up into this A-pillar here. So we can go up through the hole here, or if you've got original sills, you've probably got, there's usually a drain hole around about there. You can get right up inside this A-pillar here, because that's an area for corrosion as well, especially down the bottom here. But we'll have our probe that will get in there. We've got the jacking point, so that's worth spraying up inside there. And at the back end here, again, we've got a hole at the back here. You can go inside and get the back of those subframe mountings. Inside of the car, at about this level, you've obviously got the rear door bins, and there should be a piece of card covering over the bottom of the door bins to stop stuff dropping down inside. Word of caution, if you don't have that cover inside and you insert probes up here, you're going to get spray all inside the car as well. I do have those card bits in the rear door bin, so it's not a problem, but it's also another way of accessing the inner sills. If you have a look inside the door bins at the back, remove that card, you can see right down into the inner sill. What we might actually do with this is, once we sprayed it from the outside, I might just pull those door bins out and have a look and see how well it's covered. So before you actually start applying the cavity wax, go along, make sure all these holes are clear, because this has just had a fresh rebuild, but on an older car, these might be full up with mud, dirt and grime. So you want to clean them out first, get a screwdriver, go up inside, give them a good clean out. Also, if you've got the car up in the air like this, there's a few other areas that are definitely worth doing while you're here. Two of those are the rear sections of the valance. So this rear quarter here, there's a closing panel on the inside. Again, it's a box section there. You can usually find some holes at the back here, so you could go through where the wiring goes for the fog light. And on the other side, on mine, it doesn't have them because the valance has been replaced, but there's usually a couple of blanking holes for if you had fog lights on the left hand side as well, or sometimes you can get some insertion probes up inside here. Now, I've already done my car, I've done it as part of the rebuild. And another area to do, again, while you're here, is the bottoms of the doors. So the doors will have drain holes in there. Can't see them at the moment, there's one there. You can get the probe up inside the doors, spray that cavity wax in there, and it will protect this bottom lip down here. Before I start spraying, I thought it might be useful just to show you how it works. So we've just got a clear plastic bottle here. That's our insertion probe, so you imagine that's inside the sill. Poke that down inside, and don't do that. Down inside. Right. Well, I didn't expect that to happen. This Schutz pump is vented at the top there. Maybe it's not meant to be. So when I applied pressure, it just pressurised the can, shot it out the top there. It went all over the ceiling and all over the Mini as well. I've only just waxed it all off. So yeah, and some over my hair. So bear with me while I get tidied up and we'll have take two. So I worked out what happened there. One, the compressor, this has got no regulator on it, so it's at full whack running, I don't know, 100 PSI. And this, normally these Schutz guns, they work on Venturi. So pressure comes through here, out the end, and obviously you create a low pressure in the cylinder below, Venturi effect, and that's what sucks up the Schutz. Now you can see what I've done here. I've massively restricted the output there. So rather than creating a vacuum in here, it just backs up and pressurizes it. So bit of a modification, we sealed this off. We turned the pressure right down on the compressor. Take two, hopefully it won't make too much of a mess. And also what I've done is I've got this nice and hot now, so it's far more fluid. So as you can see, it coats really, really nicely in there. So all we've got to do now, get it underneath the car, get it done. As you can see, it's exceptionally messy, and probably only about 50% of what you're spraying is going to stay on the car. There's a couple of areas I'm going to do as well. Couldn't quite get all the way up inside there, so I've taken the door pin switch out. We're going to insert the probe down there and pull it up from the bottom. And then what it allows you to do on this cross member as well, there's holes in the cross member, so we can insert into the cross member and get cavity wax down in there as well. Right, there is two other areas I'm going to do. So we've done those A pillars now, worked quite nicely doing it through the interior door light switch. The B pillars, obviously we've got right down the bottom here, but what I want to do is get up into this section here. To do that, if you have a look on the back of the B pillar, either side there's a plastic cover. So you can pop that plastic cover off. That'll allow you to insert the probe down and you can get all the way up inside that B pillar then. Right, as you can see, it is an exceptionally messy job. I've used that whole can, I've used a whole litre. You probably waste a quarter to a half of it just in overspill. The one thing I would say, and I've used cavity waxes lots of times before, this Dinitrol stuff is very, very good in that it hardens really quickly. So I warmed it up to be liquid as much as it could be, so it sprays in a bit better. Once it actually hits the surface, it dries off like this really quickly. I've sprayed in other cavity waxes before, cheap ones off eBay, that like days later they're still fluid wet, and I don't think they ever actually properly dry. The last step is just to go along, bit of brake cleaner on a cloth, and literally just wipe up any excess. But as I say, that is where this Dinitrol is very, very good, because it looks like it hardens pretty quickly. There was one final area which I've actually run out. I could warm up another bottle of Dinitrol, but I've just used the spray can of Dynax UC S50. Is up, basically up inside this scuttle panel here. You've got the closing panel underneath. Obviously there's no holes in here, but there is, if you look underneath the hinge towards the back there's a gap underneath the scuttle there. So I've just done both scuttles in the corner there. You can see it dripping out the bottom there now. I forgot to put some paper down. So yeah, and I'm sure people are going to go to me, there's loads of other places you can put cavity wax as well, but as I went through the rebuild of this car, I was applying cavity wax as I went. It was only areas where I knew I was going to be welding or something like that, I avoided putting cavity wax, because it's flammable basically, so I wanted to leave those bits till the end. So yeah, there are areas like the rear valance and that all got done as I was going through it. All done and back on the ground now. I took the opportunity while I was there to adjust the high-lows on the front and back because it was a little bit low. They were actually on their lowest setting, so when I put them in, I didn't really set them up. So I've adjusted it up now. It's probably still sitting a bit high on the front at the moment, but there's been no miles on it. The front will go down even more. So yeah, really pleased with that cavity wax. Like I say, it's a very, very messy job. I think that can of Dinitrol is only about 20 quid. And to be honest, on the cavities, you only do it once. You don't have to keep applying it every year because they are inside the metal work. They're not exposed to the elements. It's really just protecting against that condensation and that damp that will occur in those cavities. And I'm impressed with that Dinitrol. Like I say, it dries off really, really quickly. There's that sample of what we've done in the bottle, and that is actually solid in the bottom there now. I have done that before with some cheap cavity waxes, and yeah, they've still been, it never actually dried off. So yeah, very pleased with that. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope that was useful to you. It's certainly very, very worthwhile doing on a classic Mini or any classic car. It doesn't cost a lot to do. It's just a little bit messy, but it will protect your car for years and years to come. Now, I've been in the workshop all weekend filming, so I'm going to chill out now. We're getting ready for Bingley Hall. I'm just ticking the last jobs off the list before we go on that mammoth 400-mile round trip up to Bingley Hall. Really look forward to seeing you there. I've ordered a load of stickers, so if you want a classic Mini Workshop sticker, come and find me at the show. I'll have a load in my pocket. First come, first serve. So yeah, thanks for watching again this week. Please remember to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you don't mind if you give it a thumbs down. It's all engagement. And if you want to leave me a comment, I'll read all the comments. If you're not a subscriber, please do consider subscribing. I'll be back again next week. Cheers.